everybody. We've made it. We're doing a new thing. We're testing some stuff out. Welcome in to everybody that's joining us on the first. I think we're gonna call it the first Cascadia Dispatch Live. Is I think what we're gonna call it. I don't know. We had some ideas of different things to call it. I think we're gonna maybe make those the section names, but we're trying something new. I'm trying something a little different. For those of you who have been followers of the channel, welcome everybody who's in on the live stream. I used to put out videos every week, or at least tried to for a year or two, and then life kind of got in the way, and the pandemic happened and everything, and so I didn't end up putting out a video for probably like a year. I think I put out maybe 1 or 2 videos in the span of about 12 months. And then I was like, this is not fun. I really want to get back into this. So for those of you who join us usually on Wednesday nights, Tup the Urban Prepper and I, who have become the best of buddies, have a stream called Prep Talk Live. And our idea was, hey, we're both super busy. We don't really have time to make videos the way that we used to, but we still want to be able to interact and send information to people. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a live stream once a week, and we will put that information out there. And that is what we have done for over a year. I think we're episode 55 on Prep Talk Live. For those of you keeping track at home, that is beyond what most podcasts actually do. So we're kind of proud of that. We've made it over a year. So what Tup and I have talked about doing is doing some more live streams, doing some more things to try to get that content back to our community. Because a lot of times we come up with ideas and we're like, hey, we'd really like to talk about this, but we don't have time to turn this into an actual video. We don't have the hours to film it and edit it and make it look pretty. And in Tup's case, make a PDF or 17 PDFs. But we want a way to actually do this. So I know Tup has been doing some individual live streams on his channel. I've popped in for some of them. I've not popped in on other ones. Depending on the day, we're trying to be relaxed about it. But what I wanted to do is start to do my own. We're calling it Cascadia Dispatch Live. We'll see how that works. But this is going to be episode 1. And what I want to do is take some time in each episode. We're going to have the first little bit of the episode, probably 10 minutes-ish, of something interesting having to do with prepping, things that I've seen, the tips and tricks and ideas that I would want to share with anybody or make a video about. And I just don't have time to make a video about it. And I actually saw another YouTuber, Meet Kevin, for anybody who's big in the finance space or the small business space. He's a fantastic and prolific YouTuber. He puts out more videos than anybody I think I've ever seen. And part of what he ended up doing is he started just live streaming. And he was like, hey, you know what? I don't have time to make it always super polished. I don't have time to do that. That's not important. What's important is what's interesting to people now. And we'll package it up and we'll let everybody have it. And we won't worry about the B-roll and all of the images and all that sort of stuff. We're just going to get the information out to people and let them use it because that's what they want to do. So the goal of this stream is going to be something similar like that. So a couple of things I want to talk about tonight. First thing I'm going to talk about is how to start your preparedness journey for anybody who's new and joining in. Also, would lovely if you would hit the subscribe button and the like button, thumbs up if you're seeing this either on the replay or if you're seeing it now. Really appreciate it. It's a new thing. We'll see what happens. Also, go ahead and check out Apple Podcasts. We're going to be turning this probably into a podcast as well, just like what we've done with Prep Talk Live. So keep an eye out for that. If you're on podcast platforms and you like to listen to podcasts, we're going to try to make this into a podcast a little bit. There might be special guests in the future. There might be, I'm not sure. But to start with, the general idea is we're going to talk for a few minutes about some sort of a prepping topic or topic that I think is interesting that you guys might be curious about. And then the second half, we'll talk about like some gear or a recommendation of a cool tool or something that I found. We'll go through that. If there are questions or something, we may get into that at the end, kind of Q&A sort of a thing. If you're watching on the live stream, go ahead and leave your questions in the chat. I see there are some people watching and saying hello, so we'll have more of that as we go through it. If you've been on our Prep Talk live streams, oftentimes we have a plan for what we want the live stream to be, and it goes immediately off the rails. I anticipate that may be what happens here, but we're going to give it a shot and see. Also, I'm doing this border thing around I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know if that's something like, should I just go with the full screen and forget about all the graphics, or do we like the little ambiance that is the kind of Cascadia thing? So, RV Menagerie, hey, what's going on? One of our regulars from Prep Talk Live jumping on. Great to see you. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about is how do you start your preparedness journey? For a lot of people, I talked about this in some previous videos, but a lot of people that come up to me and find out that I have a prepping channel and that I am into preparedness are like, okay, where do I start? If you're doing it, I should probably do it too. How do I start? What do I do? And so the first thing, I'm going to go through a couple of key steps. I also have my preparedness, what do I call it? My inventory assessment. I'll put some links in down below. I didn't have time to do that right away, but I'll add the links down below. I'll also add links to the thing that we're going to talk about, the product that we're going to talk about. But that is kind of a PDF that I came up with a few years ago of some steps of how to get started, what you should do, how to tackle what seemingly becomes an insurmountable journey of like, oh my goodness, I have to prepare. Once you figure out that you need to be preparing for an emergency, you immediately start thinking of all of the things you need to prepare for, and it becomes overwhelming. So the goal of that sheet and what we're going to talk about tonight is just how do you break that down? How do you make it approachable? So the first thing that I would recommend that you do if you want to start preparedness is you have obviously become aware of preparedness for a reason. Something happened and you're reacting to that usually. So what is that thing? What is the primary reason that you want to get prepared? Is it a natural disaster? Is it economic insecurity, job loss, earthquake? What is that thing? And that becomes your North Star for getting ready for an emergency. Everything that you do, you kind of start to run through that filter. And that's a really good way to start. There are lots of things that you're also going to want to prepare for. So those are kind of your secondary emergencies. For us, I always think about the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, the big, crazy earthquake. That's what we started preparing for. That's what got me interested in preparedness to begin with. And then everything else, I kind of also run through that system. So if I'm getting equipment for the earthquake, I might also use that equipment for a snowstorm. I might use it for a power outage. We might use it if we have some economic hard times and we need extra food or something. So everything that we've put into that also can apply to other, what I call secondary threats or secondary reactions, secondary issues that you want to look for. But be mindful, what's that primary kind of threat or concern that you have? And then what are those secondary concerns? That's what you want to start with. Get an idea of what that is. The next thing you want to figure out is how many people are you going to be preparing for? So if it's a natural disaster, you might need to prepare for more people than if you're having an economic downturn, for example. If you lose your job, you're going to need to probably prepare for your family. If you're worried about an earthquake, you might need to think about extended family. You might need to think about neighbors. You might want to think about friends. You might not care and you just still want to think about yourself and your family. Totally fine, totally up to you. But that's another important thing that you need to understand is if I'm getting tents, how many tents do I need? Well, how many people are you trying to shelter? If I need extra food, how many mouths am I trying to feed? Am I feeding only my family? Am I feeding pets? Those are kind of those sorts of scale and volume answers that you get by understanding how many people you're going to need to prepare for. The next thing I would think about is how long do you think you're going to prepare and where are you going to prepare? So if, for example, we'll use the earthquake example. If I think that the earthquake is going to happen, my plan is to essentially bug in for a couple of weeks and then to evacuate when help comes. If it happens, if the earthquake hits, it's going to destroy the city. It's going to destroy a lot of the West Coast. But the Midwest, the East Coast, east of the Cascade or the Cascade Mountains will probably be fine. And so we just need to really last at home long enough to then be evacuated out to the rest of civilization. If you're worried about an EMP, for example, that could be a whole different thing because all of the technology around you is going to be fried. And so that might be a much longer trek to try to get that back to normal, to get everything working again. So you want to get an understanding of how long. So now you know what you're preparing for, you know how many people you're preparing for, you know how long you're preparing for, and then the where are you preparing. If you're preparing at home, if you're bugging it at home, you have a lot of better storage options. You have better places to hide and defend and all of those things. You have a better idea of what's going on at home. If you're going to be bugging out, or if you're going to be going to a secondary location, you're going to want to make sure that whatever you're taking with you, it fits well. You can actually carry it. You don't want to have like a huge generator as part of your emergency preparedness plan if you're planning to bug out and therefore you're going to drag the generator over the mountains. Like, that's not a thing. So you would want a different power solution for a bug out situation as opposed to a bug in situation. So you really want to understand that. And then if you're going to another location, you want to make sure that that location is going to be safe. So are you checking up on that location? How far away is it? Do you need transportation to get there? Is it the sort of thing where you're going to be flying, or you need like a bike to get there, or are you capable of walking? You know, maybe it's a couple of day walk, but you'll be able to get there. So you want to kind of understand where you're going to be, how many people you're going to be, managing, or how many people you're going to be preparing for, how long you're going to have to sustain everybody and keep everyone safe, and then what are those things that would cause that threat or problem in the first place. The inventory assessment PDF kind of walks through those questions. It explains a little bit about each of those. There's a planner that we're working on that goes into a little more depth and detail, but that PDF is free, it's downloadable, it's super easy to use, and I think it's a really good first start to go through those initial questions and figure out what are you trying to do, why are you trying to do it, who are you trying to do it with, how long are you going to have to do it, and then where are you going to do it. And you kind of figure that out, and then, that's at least a good starting point. Then you get to get into all the fun things of like, how many different types of flashlights do you want, and how many backpacks do you need, and all of those sorts of things. But that gives you kind of your North Star of where to go and what to do. All right, so the next part of this, this is a product that we talked about it on the live stream, and it's a product, when I saw it a couple years ago, and I was really intrigued by it because when it comes to first aid preparedness, medical stuff, I'm like, this is one of those things that I think could be really useful, but I don't know if it's really what it is or not. So I'm not sure. And I thought about it. And it's not inexpensive. I would put it in, we often talk about budget preps and bougie preps. This is a little bit on the bougier side. I think it's $200 or $300. I think it's a little over $300. I don't know exactly the price. I haven't looked at that in a little bit. But the last time I looked, it was a little over $300. But what it is the Jase medical antibiotic medication kit. And Jase reached out to me, which was super serendipitous because I was really interested in trying this out, but I wasn't sure if I really wanted to buy it or not because I just didn't know about the quality and everything else. They reached out and they were like, hey, if we send you a kit, would you do a review? And I said, I always do honest reviews. So if you'd love to send it to me, I would actually be very interested in seeing what it is. So they sent this over. I have not actually really opened it. I opened the box. I got it a few months ago, and I feel very bad for the Jase people because I was supposed to do this review a couple months ago. We had a bunch of family stuff happen. We moved, new office, new all of that sort of stuff. So this is very delayed in happening. But what I wanted to do is just kind of do an unboxing of it and walk through what it is and what I think it could be used for, what might be better, what might be good. But this is really cool. We talked about it on Prep Talk Live a couple weeks ago. Somebody was mentioning it and how they were thinking about getting one. And I was like, oh, I just got one. Let's join us on the live stream. We'll go through it. So what I want to do right now is I'm going to kind of open it up. We're going to walk through what's in it. And then we'll answer any questions and go from there. So the first thing is it comes in this really nice kind of carrying case. It's like a nylon carrying case. it seems to fit very well. It's not like super bulky or anything like that. Um, but very nice, very easy. I like the bright color so that if you have it on a shelf, it'll kind of be easy to see. I'm a little surprised that they didn't go with like a red case, because a lot of times the medical cases and first aid stuff tends to be red, and that's just easier to see and more obvious. The fact that they went this light green, I'm sure, is probably to kind of be more calming, because it's more of a medication solution than it is really like a bleeding, cuts, and injuries sort of first aid kit. But you might, depending on what it is, it might be something where I would look to actually take the stuff out and put it in a red first aid kit, just so it's easier to see. But as far as the case goes, it's a pretty nice case. So open it up, and when you open it up, there is all kinds of stuff on the inside. So these are all of the antibiotics and things that it comes with. Oh, it's got all of my name is on it, and the doctor that gave me the prescriptions is on it. So a couple things. When you sign up to do this, this is not the sort of thing that you just go on Amazon and order. I know a lot of preparedness people talk about using like fish antibiotics and stuff. I don't know, in an absolute emergency, I might test it out, but I guess, I don't know if you call me old school or whatever, but like, I like the real medications and the real stuff. I know that sometimes it's more difficult to get it because you might need a prescription or something, but if you can order this and get the real human antibiotics, I would prefer to have that than testing my luck with the like fish antibiotics and stuff. So that's one thing. When you go online to order it, you go online and it actually asks you, like, when was the last time you had a physical? When was the last time you saw your personal doctor? Fill all that out. If you haven't seen a doctor or had a physical in a while, it will make you go and get a physical before you can order it. That was one of the things that delayed me getting this in the first place, because I hadn't had a physical in a couple of years because of said pandemic. And so I had to go find time to go get a physical and then let the Jase people know, hey, I've had my physical. They were able to connect in, get whatever medical records they needed that I had authorized them to have. And then they actually have a doctor who looks at everything and actually fills out the prescription. So when you get all of these bottles, and they basically come in these white bottles with a label. I just want to make sure that like nothing personal is here when I flip it around. But I mean, it just looks like a standard prescription bottle. There's a prescription thing. There is the actual name of whatever the medication is. There is phone number to the pharmacy where it was actually filled. So there's actually a lot of great information on it that makes this seem like a much more credible solution than, for example, even if you go on Amazon, let's say, and you're trying to find supplements. You're trying to find, if you want potassium iodide for radiation or something. There's lots of people that sell potassium iodide. According to the FDA, there are only a couple specific manufacturers who are FDA approved to actually sell it. Now, does that mean that those potassium iodides are better than the other ones? I have no idea. But I'm not a scientist, and I don't have time to figure it out for myself. So this is one of those times where, like, everyone says, do your own research. I'm going to depend on the people who have done the research to tell me that, hey, this is the brand that is approved and looked after and scrutinized, and the other brands may be less expensive, but I don't know what's going on, and I am not a scientist enough to try and figure out whether or not this is actually what it says it is. So potassium iodide, I went on Amazon and I bought those tablets separately. Those are in the garage. Everyone make their own choice on whether they feel like they need those or not. I got a set. They last for, I want to say it's 10 or 15 or 20 years or something. They last forever. So I went and got a set of those for our family, just set it aside, set it and forget it sort of thing. This I feel like is a similar thing. You can get the fish antibiotics and all of that sort of stuff, online or whatever. I feel a lot better knowing that there's like a pharmacy and a prescription number and a doctor who actually was involved in this process, that had to be licensed to do this, that actually put this together. So I like that a whole lot. Going through these, there is ciprofloxacin here. It comes with amoxicillin. I think that's amoxicillin. So a bottle of amoxicillin, doxycycline, nidazole. I don't know. Someone who's a medical person can decide how to pronounce that, and you would probably know what it is. And some azithromycin. So it comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different antibiotics, and it has instructions that are very well labeled. These are very like the printing on them is super big. So it's easy to read how to take them, what the dosages are. 1 tablet by mouth twice daily for 14 days. So there's a full set of each of these different types of antibiotics available. I'm pretty sure also when you go through the process, if you're allergic to, let's say, penicillin, you're allergic to some sort of medication, you put in the allergies, and then I think they can work around it. So if you're allergic to penicillin, like my daughter's allergic to penicillin, so we have to get different types of antibiotics for her. I would assume that it's a similar process with this, where they would just give you like the non-penicillin version. So you wouldn't get amoxicillin, you might get something else. I don't know, I didn't do that part, but I do remember going through and clicking on the buttons to actually say that I wasn't allergic to anything like that. In the case also is the emergency antibiotic guide. So one of the things that I was always kind of concerned about was, so great, I've got these antibiotics, that's wonderful, but how do I know which antibiotic I should take and for what thing? So this guide kind of gives you different issues. So like this is pneumonia, and it tells you which antibiotic you should take for which condition. Now, again, I am not a medical professional, and likely you are not a medical professional. So how well in the heat of the moment are you going to be able to go through this book and figure out if you have anthrax exposure or plague exposure, something? I have no idea if you actually would know that. I would highly recommend that you try to get a medical professional of some sort in your community, in your area, or identify in your neighborhood, for example, who is a doctor, who's a nurse, because they might be able to tell you more definitively, oh yeah, you have the plague, as opposed to you have the common cold or a flu or something like that. But this does go through and tell you for each of these different conditions and ailments, what type of medication you should take, how frequently you should do it, how you know kind of whether it's working or not. So yeah, so this is actually a really great little explanation of different illnesses that you can get, and then which way you should do it. There's certain things where it talks about, if you're pregnant, if you're breastfeeding, if you should do something different, or if you have some sort of another issue or extenuating circumstance, what can happen, what common side effects are available, you should be aware of, and what that might mean. So this is actually a pretty great guide. It's still not a replacement for an actual like medical degree or medical expertise, but it is way better than just having a box of antibiotics and guessing. Because I would just take the Z-Pak or the azithromycin and cross my fingers, I think, because that's what the doctors usually give me, is azithromycin. So yeah, but overall, like, I'm really impressed with the amount of medication that they have put in here. I mean, it's a pretty decent amount of medication. I am really glad to see that they included some sort of direction that is readable and understandable for as it relates to these different illnesses and which ones you would want to get or which ones you would want to use for whatever illness. Again, let me be very clear. I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not telling you to use antibiotics or not to use antibiotics. I wanted to make sure that we had antibiotics, so in case we needed them and we, let's say, could find a medical professional who could tell us which antibiotics we should take, we would have the antibiotics because likely the pharmacy is going to be destroyed and we won't have that. So I wanted to make sure that we had them. There's lots of other reasons that you might want to have this. I know that there's been antibiotic shortages in the last year. There's all kinds of different medication shortages that have happened over the last year. So definitely something to consider. Definitely what I would consider a little bit of a bougier prep as far as cost-wise goes. But if you need it, super, super invaluable. And actually quite impressed with this kit. So yeah, so I would say definitely yes. I would probably also probably transfer this and put this in a larger medical bag. So we have a couple of different medical first aid kits that we keep around, little ones that go in the car. We have bigger ones for trips and, you know, for bugging out or bugging in or whatever. So I would actually probably put this in our primary large first aid kit so that if we ever needed to leave, we would have it with everything else we have. And, but, you know, I wouldn't put it in a little one. I probably wouldn't put it in the car because I'm not going to use it in the car. We could maybe put it on the, like in our medication closet that we have in the house. But I would say it's probably going to end up in that big first aid kit so that if we ever needed to leave or have an emergency, this would be going with us and it would be in with everything else. And as I said, this is sponsored. It's a, you know, they sent it to me for free. I didn't have to pay for it. But I did tell them I would be honest. And my deal with you guys is that if I get something or if somebody sends it to me, it is going to be because I'm interested in it and because I want to actually get an honest review of it, of whether or not I would actually buy it. Whether I think you guys should buy it is up to you, but I'll tell you, hey, I think it's great or not. And for this, I think it lives up to what it says, to what it sells itself as, and I would definitely consider it. I would imagine you could probably use like an HSA or a flexible spending account. So to get these, check their website. But that might be another thing if you're at the end of the year, for example, and you've got some extra cash sitting in a flexible spending account that you want to use before the end of the year so it doesn't expire. I would probably check out this and look into getting it instead of getting just more random Band-Aids and, you know, vitamins or whatever you would do to kind of empty the flex account at the end of the year. So anyway, so that's the Jase medical kit. Looking in, Chuck is here. Chuck, again, one of our longtime viewers, first time Cascadia Dispatch live viewers because it's new. But Chuck joins us almost every week on the Prep Talk Live, and he and I were talking about the medical kit. So he's saying, you know, that he got some potassium iodide at Walmart. That they had it there. Chuck, I don't know if you got did you get the brand name? There are two like Iostat and Thyroid Shield or something that are like the FDA ones that are kind of like the military ones that they use. And then there's a bunch of just like standard supplements that you can get. So I'm not sure if you got the FDA approved ones or not. But yeah, that you can get potassium iodide all over the place. Just be mindful of, you know, is it real or not? I have no idea. And then he was talking about the Jase kit. They gave a doctor in the state to contact. So yeah, they're actually pretty thorough, very supportive. They've been great to work with, just from a content creation perspective, because I feel really bad that it's taken this long to actually get this video put together for them. But they've been very nice about it. And so on that front, they've been great. The kit does seem to be pretty high quality and pretty good. And then Chuck was also saying that his stash of antibiotics is also for super, super emergency, and not to really self-treat. that he'd be probably looking for a doctor or a nurse who could advise on that as well, which I think that's probably the way that I would use it as well. Um, again, like you can take basic first aid, you can, learn how to clot certain things and deal with injuries and stuff. But when you start talking about medications and dosages and different diseases and illnesses, okay, you probably need a medical person who knows what they're talking about to tell you. But this is really about making sure that if they tell you that you should be on amoxicillin, that you actually have amoxicillin to take, because, like I said, the pharmacy is probably not going to be there. So anyway, so I appreciate you guys joining us for this first episode. We will have more of these. I think I'm going to try to do it every week. Like with Prep Talk Live, sometimes life comes up in the way and not able to do it. But I'm going to give it a shot and see. I think next week I've got the Mira gas mask, so I want to do a review of that. And then we've got just some random ideas that I want to throw out as far as things that have happened for people who watch Prep Talk Live. You've heard me talk about some things like there was blood clotting, things that have come up in my life in the last little while. We just had a bunch of cars get broken into for our friends, so I'm going to talk about that. So we're going to take those ideas, and then this is going to be kind of the platform that I'm going to use to talk about those things, to give out tips and tricks. And then my bigger plan is to kind of take these longer episodes that'll also be maybe a podcast or something, and then chunk them up into highlights and things, so that if you wanted to come back and watch, let's say you just wanted to watch the beginning, how to begin your preparedness journey, you don't have to watch the full half hour. You could just watch that little 10-minute clip, or you could watch the Jase review and just have that as a clip. So that's the goal. Hopefully you guys will come along, and hopefully this will be something that is enjoyable for everybody, and we'll go from there. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Keep your eyes out, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Chuck, RB, thanks again for joining. Everybody else who's in the chat, everybody else who was watching, appreciate it. For anybody who's watching on the replay, hope you enjoyed the replay. Please go ahead and leave comments, suggestions, stars, thumbs up, all of those sorts of things down below. I really appreciate it, and so do the various algorithms. And we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.